Greetings everyone, peace to you all.
Welcome to the Velvet Room.
Welcome to another episode of Praiseworthy Reviews, where we go through video games to see if they are excellent and commendable. Today, we will be reviewing Persona 3 Reload, the modern remake of the 2006 JRPG.
We are the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad, S.E.E.S for short.
Players play as the leader of S.E.E.S, the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad, a special team of high school students investigating the Dark Hour phenomenon. As usual, we will be evaluating the game based on 5 criteria: fun factor, educational value, cultural value, spiritual value, and cost.
I want your honest opinion, okay? How was it?
For context, prior to this review, I have finished the original, Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3, and the sequel, Shin Megami Tensei Persona 4 on PS2, Persona 5 Royal on Steam, and I have finished this game to the credits. Because I played the original, I was pretty comfortable playing on hard. As far as the technical state is concerned, the game ran flawlessly, and I don't think I experienced any bugs whatsoever during my playthrough. So without further ado, let's jump in. As a remake of the first entry of the more modern Persona games, the gameplay of Persona 3 Reload is broken down into the classic formula we know and love: school life social sim during the day, and dungeon diving JRPG at night. During the day, the protagonist and his companions attend school and participate in after-school extracurricular activities. In the afternoons, evenings, and holidays, players can participate in a wide variety of activities, such as working part-time, studying, shopping, or eating at a variety of restaurants as part of the social sim side of the game.
New stuff? Sweet! So what, are we gonna get like hot springs? Or maybe a casino?
I especially enjoyed the new additions to the social sim side introduced by Reload: cooking, gardening, reading books in the dorm library, and watching DVDs, all of which can be done with other dorm residents. The additional content makes the relationships of S.E.E.S feel more organic. I also liked the nighttime activities that can be done with the other male members of S.E.E.S, none of which have their own social links. Speaking of which, the player can engage in social link activities, which is just the game mechanics term for spending time with various acquaintances and friends throughout the game. These social links power up an arcana, which basically just means all personas of that type. During the Dark Hour, players explore Tartarus to reveal its mysteries and connection with the Dark Hour, fighting shadows and doing all the general JRPG type of stuff. In combat, players use the classic Persona 9-element system of slash, strike, pierce, fire, ice, electricity, wind, light, and dark. If you are new to Atlas games, some of the names may be confusing, but this confusion is alleviated with new and improved graphical icons that the original did not have. Basically, players try to attack weaknesses to knock down the bad guys. If all enemies are knocked down, players can use a special all-out attack that does significant damage. Reload introduces additional new mechanics like theurgies, which are basically cool new limit break type abilities that retains the classic mechanics while adding a little bit of additional depth. The bosses and mini-bosses of the game are basically the same as before, although some of the bosses actually feel a little harder than the original. However, I think this is to compensate for additional abilities like theurgies. As far as progression is concerned, of course you can gain new equipment, such as weapons, armor, shoes, and accessories. However, most progression involves leveling up personas for both the companions as well as the protagonist. As personas level up, they gain additional skills. As a unique ability called the Wild Card, the protagonist can also gain new personas to use.
You, my boy, are able to possess multiple personas and summon them at will.
And so, character level progression for the main character becomes especially important in order for the player to meet level requirements for more powerful personas. Post-combat shuffle time is back as a way for players to gain new personas, but I like how Reload allows the player to choose the card they want instead of having to guess like in the original. While some of the gameplay, especially Tartarus, feels slightly dated compared to the more modern entries of Persona 5 or Re Fantasio, overall the new additions smooth over most of the rough edges of the original and keep things interesting even for players of the original like me. Overall, I'm going to give Reload 5 stars for fun factor. As a JRPG with no real-time elements, Persona 3 Reload basically has no motor skill challenges or motor skill development whatsoever. However, the factual and conceptual knowledge that can be learned in the game is practically legendary. The Persona series is well known for introducing meaningful academic knowledge in some of the lessons and exams at school, often with factually correct introductions of knowledge from many standard high school subjects. This makes a lot of sense given that the game takes place in school, but it's still very nice to see that they actually put effort in this area. Reload updates the questions with all new questions that don't reuse any from the original, something that I found to be quite refreshing. In addition, much of the less useful or more mystical knowledge is still relevant to the main themes or motifs of the game. And overall, the school day knowledge continued to impress me even late into the game. As a result, I'm going to give the game 5 stars for educational value. Persona 3 Reload, like most remakes, brings much of its enhancement in the form of updated visuals. In addition to the typical enhancements like higher resolution and increased frame rate, other visual updates were made. The lighting seems brighter than the original, and the menus and interfaces are both stylish and thematic. I was also pleasantly surprised by the new uniforms, and they are not only cool in universe, but also complement the updated models and proportions.
Oh man, this is awesome! We're like a super elite task force!
Many of the animations look similar in style to the original, but also have a sense of being redone. In particular, the animated cutscenes are noticeably different and the cut-ins are more dynamic. One thing I did to prepare for playing Reload was to listen to the original soundtrack I had, which came with the original PS2 game. Reload soundtrack features rearranged tracks that do a great job of bringing back the feelings of the original, while actually enhancing them in subtle ways.
Champs de Flores? How do you say that?
It's Champ de Fleurs. It means field of flowers.
The voice acting was entirely redone, but honestly, if I didn't look that up, I wouldn't know that. Each of the voice actors does a great job in capturing the essence of the original characters, so I have no complaints. I especially enjoyed the voice actors for Mitsuru, Junpei, and Yukari.
What? Who are you calling a chicken?
The setting of the game, Tatsumi Port Island, is of course the same, the artificial island created by the Kirijo group. The characters were not the strongest in this series, but I think the new activity additions have really fleshed them out even more, and S.E.E.S feels better than ever. The plot and the way that it develops the themes continues to be excellent, with Reload seeming to do an even better job than the original. The ending was quite satisfying to me, and I have not played the DLC in either the original or in Reload. Persona 3 Reload sold 1 million units in 1 week, and it was obviously a success because a remake of Persona 4 has been announced to tide fans over until Persona 6. There are also many manga and anime adaptations, as well as other types of spin-offs, which I won't go into here. Atlus continues to excel in the cultural area, so I'm going to assign Reload 5 stars for its cultural value. The spiritual value of Persona 3 Reload is hard to describe because there's a lot of negative content, but also very positive content. From the outset, you will quickly see that there is lots of blood and violence. There is some sexualization and fan service common to anime, such as swimsuit costumes and that kind of thing. Some of the personas or shadows are also scantily clad. There's a lot of vulgar language. There are characters that both drink alcohol and smoke, although none of the members of S.E.E.S do, since they are all underage. Some may also feel uncomfortable with the arcanas and the tarot card motif, but it didn't really bother me. In my opinion, the most negative content of all is that the evokers look like guns, and evoking the personas is very reminiscent of suicidal actions. Furthermore, there is actually some suicidal ideation from 2 or 3 of the characters, although I think it's handled in very meaningful ways. Being able to evoke personas that are demons, including Satan himself, may also bother some people. It would bother me, but it doesn't for 2 reasons. First, you don't have to use the demons if you don't want to, but you can also evoke angel personas, and most importantly, the spirit of the Lord himself, which I remember doing even in the original game. Also on the positive side, if you understand the meaning behind the themes of the game, the evokers and suicidal imagery actually have meaning and significance in very Christian ways. Even if we exclude the main themes, there are definitely positive portrayals of redemption and reconciliation, of friendships and family. It's no surprise that ESRB rates the game as M for mature, which I definitely agree with. Despite all that, The messages of the game are not only very biblical, they are often conveyed using allusions to the Bible itself, which is awesome. For more analysis on the themes of the game, check out my biblical themes video for this game. Due to the significant amounts of darker content, overall I'm going to give Reload 4 stars for spiritual value. The cost for Persona 3 Reload is quite mixed. The time investment it asks of you can be quite steep. For the time poor, the game will take you at minimum 65 hours. Because I had played the original, I was able to excel at combat and rarely had any issues. I also generally avoided combat in Tartarus whenever possible, with the exception of rare shadows, monad doors, monad passages, and bosses. Without fast-forwarding through voiced dialogue, the game still took me about 70 hours to roll credits. I think Atlas could have trimmed this down in little ways similar to Metaphor Re Fantasio. For the time rich, there is still some additional content to do, including the monad doors and passages and Elizabeth's requests, which could easily add up to another 10 or 20 hours. Persona 3 Reload retails for $69.99 USD, which feels quite steep, but it can regularly be found for about 55% off, which feels like excellent value. However, one controversy that surrounded the game was how the DLC, Episode Aegis, was sold separately at $34.99. I personally agree with much of the online clamor that because Reload is a remake, the DLC probably should have been bundled in for free. Overall, based on the content value, narrative accessibility, and asking price, I'm going to give Reload 3 stars for cost. The original Persona 3 was always my favorite out of 3, 4, and 5. Even though I really like the rural small town murder mystery setting of Persona 4 and many of the gameplay updates in Persona 5, I remember both of those being just not quite as strong as 3 in terms of plot and themes. I was not planning on playing Reload, mainly because of the time investment, but I had such a good time with Metaphor Re Fantasio that I decided to revisit the series through Reload, the remake of Persona 3. Persona 3 Reload exceeded my expectations by not only bringing all the quality of life enhancements from Persona 5 that you would want, but also by introducing just enough new content and changes to keep things fresh while remaining faithful to the original. Reload was so enjoyable that I guess I now plan on playing and reviewing Persona 4 Revival, even though I originally wasn't going to do that either. If there was any complaint that I had about Reload at all, it would be that they could have made Tartarus a little bit less repetitive. My other minor complaint was the bad vibes from the cash grab feeling that Atlas gave us with the DLC being sold separately. Based on the criteria discussed in the video, I subjectively assign Persona 3 Reload the rating of priority purchase. That's all I have for you in this video.
Well, I better get going.
Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.